Today, we're going to talk about a very interesting topic, which is should you hire a candidate if that person meets 80% of the requirements, or should you continue waiting for the perfect match, so to say? So, let's discuss this. I mean, on the one hand, on a more philosophical way, but then on the other hand, also on a very recruiting based way, also based on the experience that we've made. Hi, this is Laura, and you're listening to the CareerBee Talks podcast, where we share all the newest insights on the recruiting world from both sides, the candidate perspective and the company perspective. Let's jump right in. Luca, welcome to today's episode, and I'm excited to discuss this topic with you.
Thank you. Yeah, sounds very interesting. And maybe as a first question back to you, when we talk about the 80%, you mean that a candidate only matches against the job description, right? By 80%, and we're like, should we hire or should we not hire, right? That's the
I
question.
mean,
I think for many that's a familiar question, probably.
Absolutely. But on the other hand, I have to say that, most not most companies, but many companies also that, we've worked for in the past don't have this very specific requirement list, but this 80% can also be based on a feeling, right? It's like if the person is not the perfect match yet, but I somehow kind of like the person. So it could be against requirements if the company is, super organized, or based on a feeling if the company didn't have the requirements well established beforehand. So it could be both. Let's see where the discussion can go.
Yeah, but that's exactly the point. I think that's very important. And in the one scenario where you don't have the requirements clearly defined, that's maybe already kind of like the mistake to get into it. So that's what I always say, or what we are, I think, preaching for a couple of years. Is before you start the recruitment process, you need to clearly define what criteria do you have that a candidate needs to fulfill, and also I usually try to make things simple. That's to differentiate between must-have requirements and nice-to-have requirements only, right? So maybe you have a certain must-have requirements that we really define as, okay, if a candidate does not match this criteria, if they don't have this experience or that skill set, then it doesn't work for us. Then we cannot hire. On the other hand, a nice-to-have criteria is defined as, yeah, it would be great if the candidate can also do this and also has experience with this software already. But we would still consider hiring if they don't.
Right, but let's continue with this example because I think this is very interesting. So let's assume we have must-have and nice-to-have requirements, which is what every company should be doing to facilitate the recruiting process and create more comparability, right? But this 80%, that would then mean that the must-have requirements needs to be met, not at 80%, but at 100%. And then for all the other, we can go towards the 80%, right? That would be kind of the way to look at this.
Yeah, so for me, really, must have is defined as if this candidate doesn't bring this skill or this experience, then they are out. And this is really important that you clearly define this. And also, recruiting is never done usually in a company of one person only. Most of the time, there's others involved, and a lot of time it's a group decision, right? So you maybe have a manager, then you have someone else in the team, senior, who's joining the interview process. Then maybe one upper level, the director also wants to join and he or she also has some opinion. And a lot of times, this is when we then get exactly this confusion. It's like, what are actually our criteria? And this is why I'm really stressing this point. It's like before we should have clear list of requirements, must have versus nice to have, that everyone agrees before we even look at one of the profiles. Because when we do it later, it's already too late. And yes, you're right that in that case, for me, I always define it with our clients is a must-have requirement needs to be met, otherwise the candidate is out. And it reminds me of a experience that I have when working more in the IT project management field. Once we were about to introduce a new HR software tool, and we went through the process, and we had our clear criteria defined, and we looked at one of the vendors, and there was something very positive. The tool integrated very, very neatly within the environment of the company, and the interfaces were quite easy. But one point was not met that we had previously defined as master. And suddenly the discussions were going on, and management was really pushing, no, the integrations are so great and everything else. It looks really good, and it's so simple to do. I was like, no, 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 wait, we have to go back. And then we actually had to go back. Like 1 month ago, we had this meeting. This is what we defined. We said, this is our master criteria. If this is not met, the tool is out. And this software tool did not have this criteria. And so we did not choose it. But you kind of lose track of this over time, and kind of like shiny object syndrome, right? You're suddenly focusing on other, oh, this candidate brings so much experience. Oh, he comes from this and this competitor. This would be very valuable to know. And everyone and our CEO would also love him. And I forget, oh, wait, but he actually does not have this skill and this skill that we actually defined at the beginning of the search. Oops. So yeah, that's really the first step. Make this list.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good example. And well, then maybe to redefine the question based on what we've learned so far, it would not be about the 80% candidate. It would be more about, finding the person that meets the must-have requirements in a first step. And only after that, we can discuss like, who are we gonna, hire or not, which of course implies companies need to define this must-have criteria, as you said, as step one, very much before even starting their recruiting process. And I think that is something that many companies forget to do. So I think this is a great reminder. Please start there so you don't have to rely on feelings and then have to do costly mistakes in hiring later on. So I think that's great. And now let's imagine we have this person that meets 100% of the must have. What is then, the next step to see like, the rest of criteria would have around 80% of everything that should be in the job.
Right, that's great. And yeah, right. Now we have a candidate who fits all the requirements. The problem is, and this is what you need to be careful on at the other side, is now we can say, well, great, then let's define everything that we think is nice as a must-have criteria, like Luca said, and then when we find the perfect candidate who matches everything, unfortunately, that's not realistic as well, right? So you also need to take into account what's the talent market like in the location that you have. If I have a list of 10 must-have requirements, but let's say I work in a smaller city, and I'm looking for a rather specific profile, and we know our salary ranges are not bad, but maybe not top of the market. Well, that's going to be really hard if you have to find 10 must-have criteria. And so this is also another question we need to ask, is how many should we actually have, and how urgent is this role? This maybe also like say some of the negotiations, let's say, which criteria should be must have, which are only nice to have. So I usually like to have maybe 3 to 5 maximum must have criteria, and this can be broadly within the skill section. This can be some educational background, knowing some tools, languages also spoken, and then you should give maybe a list of 5. I would say if it's like 6 or 7, that's already a lot, and then the rest are nice to have. And now finally I'm answering your question. If the 80% means that all the must-haves, however, that we have are still kept, and then some of the nice-to-have they have, but some of them don't, then I think that's fine. Then you can make this higher. If 80% means, well, they fulfill 4 of our 5 master criteria and a few of the nice-haves, then for me this would be a no. Yeah,
Mhm.
so it really depends what type of 80% of the profile does the candidate fulfill.
No, perfect. I think that is like a very good way to go and also a good guidance for companies. I think this takes away some of the risk that we have in hiring if this is the guide that we follow. Nonetheless, for me, then still, I will challenge that. Let's say 100% of the must requirements are met. Okay, so let's take away that variable, and now we are looking at somebody that from all the nice to have requirements plus the must have is in an overall of 80%. Would you recommend the company to then go with that hire or to continue waiting for somebody that meets
Mhm.
even all the nice to have requirements?
Yeah, very, very, very good question. Most of the time, from my feeling, I would say let's go for it. So I'm usually, as soon as the master criteria is met, let's go for it. Um, It depends then a little bit on your situation, but there's a concept that's also often neglected. It's let's say the opportunity cost of not hiring, right? I make an easy example. Let's say we are recruiting for a sales role, and your previous job holder, very accomplished salesperson, brings in a lot of revenue. They have handed in the resignation. They have a 2 months notice period. 2 months they are gone. You're now starting to look for some candidates, probably take some time. We need to figure out what exactly do we want. Do we want to recruit in-house? Do we bring in an agency like a CareerBee to speed things up? Or what do we want to do here? And so we probably use a few weeks already doing this. So let's say you decide to work with a recruiting agency, you explain to them and they're getting work and they are fast, but still already 1 month probably passes quite fast in that scenario. Every month as soon as the guy leaves, 1 month until he leaves. If you wait longer, there's always costs associated because no one is currently on the vacancy. So that means in sales it's quite easy. They are not talking to customers. They're not bringing new deals in. Also, you have an onboarding phase for the new person, right? You cannot just hire someone and expect, we say in our sales example, to expect them to deliver again new customers on day one. There's some onboarding, 1 month, 2 months probably, sometimes even longer. And the longer you wait for candidates, the longer you increase this period. And this cost of vacancy, so to say, also exists in other, not just in Salesforce, basically for everything. That you don't have people working on the job, you are basically losing money. And so for me, that's why I always say, as soon as we hit our master criteria, even if not all of the nice have, I would go for it, unless we have other candidates in the pipeline that fit this potentially. Okay, then we can still compare and wait. But if we don't have anyone else right now, then I would like go for it because recruiting process also takes time, right? In the meantime, you tell me, yeah, it fits from the massive, but it's not 100% what we wanted. Then I have to go out in the market, find some new candidates. I'm very fast. Still takes a week of time until I can reach out to candidates, talk with them. They send me their CV. I can present them to you. And then until you have time to do your interviews, another 2 weeks. And then candidate one that we had at the beginning, he's gone by now because it was a good candidate. And now he's joining some other company. And now we're left without anyone. Right. So as soon as the must-haves are get, I'm always okay. Let's go for it.
Right.
We hire him. Maybe we have 2 or 3 options at the same time. This would be preferable. But as soon as we have found it, okay, let's go for it. And I've seen this over 7 years. This always works the best.
Yeah, and I think 2 points come to my mind. On the one hand, like this aspect of hiring for potential, which means you'd never hire for the 100% perfect match, but you hire for somebody that can develop into the 100% match. Because maybe one of the extra must-have requirements, which I don't talk about hard skills, but let's say the learning ability of that person. If you figure out if that person is somebody that can go into new environments, that can learn, that wants to develop, then that 80% is not a big gap that will stay as a gap for long, right? Because you hired somebody that will develop fast. So I think like this, on the one hand, this hiring for potential makes a lot of sense as well, because it allows you to hire faster, to have a broader talent pool, not just, the perfect match. And then I think that is a very nice aspect to consider as well. And I fully agree with you. Like if the must-have are met, then let's go with the person. But I think the second aspect that I also wanted to talk about is maybe also about the feeling, right? Because you want to hire somebody that meets, the culture of the company or that could fit into the team. And I think that is something that if you feel that is given, that is within the 80%, then that is also, it becomes a safer decision to hire that person.
Yeah, I agree. I really like what you're saying here. If you hire also someone who, a lot of times, what does it mean, the perfect 100% match? A lot of times, what company means is, oh, this person has done exactly our job in a very similar industry already and is fine with the same salary as before. And if you hire this person, I can pretty much guarantee you that in 1 year, this person will again look for another job. Because why would they, unless they got fired because, or not fired, but laid off because of some struggles in the previous company financially or whatever. why would they take a job that's exactly the same in another company? Then there's no reason to switch unless you're forced, right? Sometimes maybe this happens, lightning strikes, and you can find that. But usually people want to grow and in some part of their role take on new challenges and continue developing. That's what makes us humans. That's why we're not an AI or not a technology.
Absolutely. So to kind of summarize what I've gained from this conversation so far, it would be that you can hire the 80% candidate, or you even should hire the 80% candidate, but what is meant by 80% is still that 100% of the key requirements or the must-have requirements, they are given. This person brings those must-have, and overall, beyond those must-have that are met, the candidate can be around an 80% match towards what you wanted in an ideal world that doesn't exist that often. Did I summarize it the right way, or would you add something to it?
No, perfect, perfect. I would wholeheartedly agree with that.
Perfect. And I mean, maybe this is also a good point to also make, that if you are currently in that process and maybe are not even finding those 80% candidates because you feel like the ones that are applying don't even match that, should I then still go with them? Then maybe still, think about the recruiting process per se, maybe working, with a recruiting agency. Maybe you need some external support on how to improve the process, because even though we say like 80% is great and hiring for potential is great, but still this 80% should be something that you aim for when hiring. And sometimes having this external support can be the way to go to achieve at least, candidates that have this 80%. And if you are looking for something in this direction, feel free to reach out. We're going to leave our email in the show notes so that you can, just send us a brief email, and we're very happy to support you finding those right candidates for your jobs. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you are a company who's currently looking to expand their team with amazing talent, make sure to check out our website, careerbeat.io, to learn more about our recruiting services and how we can help you find the best candidate for your open roles. On the other side, if you are a candidate who's currently looking to find a job in the US or Germany, make sure to explore our website, careerbeat.io/talents, to see how our masterclass and our additional career services can get you to find your dream job. In any case, you can always reach out to our team via the email team@careerbeat.io. We are so happy to continue sharing many more insights around recruiting and job searching.